So this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was definitely an emotional roller coaster. This is probably the closest I've ever came to tearing up during a JoJo episode. If it wasn't bad enough we lost one character who was amazing, we lost two. But what really makes it so sad is because both of these characters, despite me really wanting them to carry on, their death, they didn't go out without a fight in some way, even if it may look like someone such as Leon went out without a fight. When you have Nero, who essentially came up with an idea to basically take the boss out with him, because the boss was giving him an option. I will give you a peaceful death if you return the iron in my body, and he came up with the way of essentially controlling Aerosmith to essentially take him out alongside himself. So he would go out with a fight, but of course, because when you are going up against someone like King Crimson, you can essentially erase your presence in those time frames, and then basically you weren't the one getting hit by the shots. But you're seeing that even the boss recognizes that that was a good move. You didn't go out like a pushover. He was able to stand his ground even in his dying moments, and it impressed him even if it put the boss in a pretty much impossible situation with no iron in his body. As much as I loved Nero, as much as I loved Metallica, he went out with a fight. I thought he was done last week, and it showed us that he still had some fight left in him, and even had one more trick up his sleeve with his stand being able to influence other stands as well. So he still went out with a fight, and it felt like a satisfying conclusion for such a badass character. But then when we switch it over to Leon, that's where it hurt. There was no way that Bruno's gang was going to make it to the end. All of them alive, there was no way. And if anyone had to die in this situation, the man who can replay the past and expose his identity, it makes total sense. However, even though it was such a quick and almost anticlimactic death, that's what makes it so believable, is because you're going up against someone who you don't know who it is. They could be walking beside you, and why would someone like Leon let someone so powerful such as the boss get so close? Because he didn't. It was a pack of kids. There was no way he would be able to tell that the boss was there. And to see just a quick impale through the chest to kill it, like, they're human. It's easy to forget because they have these floating spirits that can fight for them, but they are human, and one blow to the chest can kill you, and it can be over in a second. But what makes his death actually mean something is not only does it remind the viewer that this is a life or death situation where people can die in an instant, and even if we have someone like Giorno who can repair bodies, if he's not there in the right moment, they are dead. What makes his death so perfect is even in his final moments, he used the last bit of energy to show who the boss is. That reveal after so much pain and torment and despair makes that death mean so much more. They didn't have to. They could have left it as just, we lost a comrade. But to see Giorno in those moments pick up on what he had in his hand, to give it life so it would go back to where it came from, to see the boss's face implanted into that rock, like, that means everything. And that's what ties it together, because for Leon, he feels like a failed police officer. He took a bribe and got someone close to him killed. He feels like he couldn't stay on the straight and narrow. And even in his deathbed, he couldn't complete another mission. Not only did he get himself killed, he let down his crew. And to see that kind of like dream sequence where the person, the cop that he got killed, is pretty much praising him as being someone who wasn't a failure, and the fact that he can look down and see that his crew now knows who they have to go after, that was such a touching and beautiful way to wrap up an amazing character story. Someone who may seemed a little hard-pressed, a little too up his own ass at times, he's felt a little pretty hostile towards Giorno, but that he had reasons to be that way, and to see that even though he had to die here, he didn't leave his crew without nothing. He proved what the boss's identity is, and the fact that we lost two incredible characters, the fact that we lost two incredible stands, and I still feel like their character arcs were satisfying, that is what's great about this part. It was so emotional, this episode. If it wasn't bad enough to kill one, you kill two, but you also give their death meaning, and to showcase that they didn't give up who they were in their final moments. Nero didn't go out like a bitch and give the boss back his abilities. No. Essentially what he was saying is that even if I dislike Bruno's gang, I would rather them kill you than give you back what you have so I can have a peaceful death. I would also rather try to take you myself, and if that fails, there's another group pursuing you. Nero didn't give up in his final moments, neither did Leon. And that's what I loved, and the fact that both of their death actually meant something is what makes it so sad, but also feeling like a good book just came to an end for both of their characters. This episode was incredible. I don't know how they can keep pulling these interesting cards for the boss and how he can just manipulate reality to fit in the palm of his hand. What he did to that kid is disgusting and reminds us how brutal of a man this truly is. To just see this cat and mouse chase that you would think is pretty much Bruno's ballgame. There's no way that the boss could get away. He has no iron in his body, and to see him sucking blood out of a frog to then sucking blood probably out of that goddamn kid, like, he was doing some crazy, crazy shit to get his energy back, and it really reminds you why this man needs to be put down. As cool of a stand as he has, as much as a menacing personality as he has, Bruno, Giorno, anyone would be a much better leader than him. And that's what I love about this episode, is even when you think everything's okay, or everything's finally done and wrapped up, it shows you that it's not. I'm sure some people are going to say, why would Leon, when he's in the middle of replaying the past or rewinding the past, would he go over to help some dumbass kids? Well, they were getting in his way. Nothing seemed to be there. As far as he knew, there was one person dead up there, and everything was covered. He needed to get those kids away in a matter of a minute because he didn't know that one of the enemies was hiding with the kids. He was killed in an instant. And I think that is actually such a really great way to kill one of our best characters, because it's easy to forget how human they actually are. And I've seen so many people tell me that, even I keep saying like how Giorno, yes, he can heal people, but people can still die. And I've had so many people try telling me, well, no, because he can just heal them. There is no sense of death. But this is what I've been fearing. This is what I've been saying. That something like this could happen, is if he's not there in the right moment, if someone lands a fatal blow, it's all over. And to see that emotional reaction from all the characters, you're seeing Narnacha just not believe it. He's truly delusional, thinking Giorno is not trying hard enough, or it's just taking a bit more time. You're seeing Bruno chew down on his lip so hard that he's bleeding, and he's basically saying, we have no choice. We have to go. And that pains him. That pains him that he has to say he has to leave one of his closest comrades, because that's the hand they've been dealt. They all knew what they were signing up for, but it doesn't change the fact that seeing one of their own die kills them. And that's what I love, just the realistic but subtle and very noticeable reactions to how their bodies were shaking in rage and fear and delusion, to just see that crushing defeat. That's what makes that kind of final moment so perfect, because if they would have left us off on that, though it would have been realistic, it would have been such a stab to the heart. So the fact that he didn't just die for nothing, he died while revealing the identity of the boss, and to just see that from just crushing defeat to, even though they're completely depressed, one of their own has fallen, to the hopefulness that his death wasn't for nothing, is such a powerful moment. The end stages to the show, it's incredible. I'm almost at a loss for words, because Golden Wind literally started off as phenomenal, and somehow they keep raising the bar, especially in the end game. And when you think you know what's going to happen, I thought Nero was dead last week, he still had a bit of fight in him, and it still impressed me with what they could do within 5 minutes of a dying man's wish to take out his most hated enemy. This episode is just amazing. Last week I thought was amazing, but now I'm considering like maybe this was even better than last week, and there actually wasn't too much action. It was more of just what really this episode did for the story as a whole, breaking our cast, but also giving them a chance to find the true identity now that they know the face of. And I just think like, holy hell, like I can't wait to see where this is going to go, because you know this can't be the only loss we'll have. There's gonna be more casualties. This story functions over such a short period of time. To see what they've went through over a matter of just a handful of days is crazy, and to think of where the final battle could truly go, it just leaves me fearful, leaves me very hopeful, and very excited for the future of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The voice actors killing it. Reaction in such the subtle but noticeable ways really makes you feel as painful as them. Even though we grew with these characters for 28 weeks now, it still feels very painful to see them just see one of their closest allies. For some of them, they've been with them for years, and even though Giorno just met this guy, he never wanted something like this to happen. I honestly think this is probably like top 2 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just for the emotional weight it had and how it didn't feel cheesy or cliche. The fact that Leon just got stabbed through the chest in such a quick moment, like, you don't get to see that enough, I think, with JoJo. The really real and human deaths, that, because when death happens, it is anticlimactic. You usually don't see it coming. You don't get a long fight to see who wins or loses. Sometimes an assassin can just come up from behind you and take you out in a moment's notice. We've seen characters do that. We've seen snakes, poisonous snakes, go and kill people in just a minute. They didn't get to fight back. They just died. Like, it's nice, though, as much as it hurts to say, to see this happen to our central cast, because not only did the death mean something, it also really shows you that this is a gang. And it's not just going to be the enemies that are going to have casualties. It will also be our main cast. And even if you have someone like Giorno who can heal people, if he's not around in the right moment, everything's going to go to shit. And that's what makes this episode incredible, especially the music in the final moments. The music overall in this episode was great, but during the emotional goodbye, trying to force yourself to leave your dead companion's body, like, that music really tied it together. This was such a heartbreaking, but also a little bit of an optimistic episode with what the death truly meant. And to see two great characters, two great stands go out, but also not feel like they were cheated, that they did give it their all in their final moments, and to see how you have our boy trying to go back to that bus, but he can't. But it's okay because he didn't fail. He didn't fail when he was a cop. He didn't fail when he was in this gang. He did something, and I think that emotional goodbye in his almost like spiritual head, I think really is what ties that goodbye together, and this was such a phenomenal episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is one of those episodes I'm definitely going to rewatch a couple of times. This was just such a great episode. I'm really curious for manga readers, how emotional was this in the manga for you? And in comparison to how the anime went for it, did you love it? Did you hate it? For anime originals like myself, what are you thinking? Because this one caught me by surprise for sure, so let me know down in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like to show your support, and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.